into College Football Smothered and Covered. My name is Barrett Salee. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. It is a Monday. We've got a lot of fun planned for the week. So if you're an SEC fan, if you're a Mountain West fan, or you're a Big 12 fan, please spread the word because we will have head coaches from all three of those conferences on throughout the course of this week. So don't forget to subscribe, share, give us 5 stars, give us 1 star, whatever you like. We love constructive criticism also. So definitely please leave a review. And like we talk about every single episode, please go listen, go watch to everybody. Right here across the Believe Network, Josh Pate, JD McKellen on 3, all of them. SDS, that SEC podcast, all of them. We are one big family. We are here to provide you college football content 24/7, 365. So please go check that out. Make us part of your rotation. Make those guys part of your rotation as well, because sometimes you're going to like what they say and you're not going to like what I say. Sometimes it's going to be vice versa. But the only way to provide you coverage, diverse coverage, the coverage you deserve, is by going and listening and watching to all of us who cover college football. We will have a big show today. There's spring game reactions. And there's one spring game reaction that leads all of them. One above all else. We're not going to tell you which one, but you can probably guess. But in this business, they call them teases for a reason. And that, my friends, is a tease. We'll also talk about a high-profile quarterback on the move. Again, some big names in the SEC involved there. We'll also talk about betting, who will be the number 2 pick. I don't know. Bet Online's got some odds that are quite interesting. So we'll check those out. And of course, we will talk about rules changes. It is the off season. It is administrative season. So we'll do that as well. Hey, check this shirt out. QB1, Quinn Ewers. Yes, he is still the number 1 quarterback at Texas. Will stay that way at least for a year, barring injury. The Heisman runner. And you can get this shirt at breakingt.com. Just go to breakingt.com/smothered and covered. All your college football gear, whether it be NIL shirts like this, legendary shirts from players of the past, or viral shirts from the moment. If something big happens 2 hours later, bam, it's up on Breaking T. So go to breakingt.com/smothered and covered. You can get your college gear, Braves gear, baseball gear, anything. They've got it over at Breaking T. All right. Spring games have changed quite a bit. 10, 15 years ago, hot takes after every single one. Your player was winning the Heisman Trophy. That other player was getting benched. Everybody's overrated. Everybody's underrated. Now things have changed a little bit because a lot of times, in a lot of cases, these spring games are dumbed down. And in Ole Miss's case, they do more of a festival type atmosphere. And that would be great. I wish all of them would do festival type atmospheres. But there are actual games out there. And Texas held its spring game over the course of the weekend. Of course, it's a big weekend, big week, big month, big year for Texas as they transition to the SEC. So a lot of people in my neck of the woods had their eyes turned and tuned into the Texas spring game. And guess what they saw? Arch Manning's electric Texas spring game performance has fans hyped about the quarterback's future. 19 of 26, 355, 3 touchdowns, including a 75-yarder on the first pass, and 1 interception. Now, I'm not going to play the video, but you can go on X and you can watch them. There are videos of every single Arch Manning pass from the spring game. And there will be a lot of folks that say, well, yeah, I could hit those passes. Those dudes were wide open. Well, yeah, that's 100% accurate. Those dudes were wide open. I don't know if you could hit them, but yes, there were a lot of passes that Arch connected on with guys who were wide open. So naturally, because of Arch Manning's spring game performance, he's winning the Heisman, he's winning the Masters, he's winning the World Series, the Stanley Cup, the Daytona 500. Arch Manning is winning everything. Well, of course, that's the reaction that some people had. Not going to name names. And look, honestly, it doesn't even really matter because we like arguing. But Arch Manning is not winning the Heisman. Arch Manning is not a superstar. Arch Manning is not going to start at Texas. He is just a backup quarterback for now. And he played well in the spring game. Good for him. To me, what's interesting, and Chris Plank and I talked about this on College Sports Sunday on SiriusXM, there's a week left in the transfer portal. If you're Arch Manning, yeah, you've got all the money. If you're a Manning, you have all the money. Doesn't matter what you do. If you're a football player or a botanist or whatever, you have money. But at some point, don't you just want to play football? I know that Arch said he's dedicated to Texas, and he is. That's fine. He probably feels that way when he talks about his commitment to Texas. In fact, I would say he does mean it. But things can change, right? Things can change. Now, I'm not a multimillionaire like Arch Manning, but I do know that at some point, yes, money drives decisions. So if I'm making $100 million as the CEO of a bank or whatever, and another bank comes along and says, hey, I'm going to pay you 5 times that. I'm going to pay you $500 million. I don't care how loyal I am to my current employer, probably going to go take that job. So it doesn't matter if Arch Manning is legit and the spring game hype means that he should be starting at Texas. It matters that he could be starting somewhere else. And so there will be boosters. There will be collectives. There will be a lot of people that look at that spring game and say, we got to have that guy. And the spring transfer portal window is open. So I think the next week is going to be fascinating in Arch Manning's world because he did enough in that spring game. And yes, it is a spring game, but he did enough to make himself attractive to a lot of people with a lot of money. So if money is a factor, and again, if I'm making $100 million and someone offers me $500 million, deuces, I'm out. And I'm not saying that's what Arch is getting, but I'm saying you could double, triple, quadruple your salary based on that one spring game. Not at Texas, but somewhere else. So it'll be a fascinating week to see if Arch stays at Texas and honors that commitment, or if the changing landscape of college football and his status makes him rethink that. And that's okay. That's totally fine if that's what happens. Because don't you want to play football? If you're Arch Manning, or if you're anybody who is going to sit the bench for 2 years, aren't you actually hurting your draft stock a little bit? And I'm not talking about your upside, but you're going to want to put things on film to show scouts what you used to be and what you became. And maybe what you could do in the NFL level. And if you sit for 2 years, you're a little rusty. Football players need to play football. And I wonder if the combination of not playing for 2 years, which is where Arch is headed if he stays at Texas, the combination of not playing for 2 years and maybe a collective somewhere looking at that spring game saying, yeah, that dude could start for my team. I wonder if that's what pushes him over the edge. We're going to find out in a week. We're going to find out in a week. If it was me, my priorities would have changed after that spring game, and I would try to find somewhere else to play. I'm not a Manning. I don't have as much money as the Manning family. But at some point, if you're going to get paid a lot more and get a chance to start, that to me is more important than staying loyal to a school that I had no loyalty to before, making less money and not playing football. To me, it is that simple. To me, it is that simple. But again, congrats to Heisman Trophy winner, Masters champion, U.S. Open champion, Daytona 500 winner, Stanley Cup champion, and World Series champion, Arch Manning. Speaking of transfer quarterbacks, Jaden Rashada, our friend from recruiting fame, who was committed to Florida. Then there was some stuff going on behind the scenes in a lot of different ways. He ends up going to Arizona State, plays 3 games in a very not ideal circumstances. Plays 3 games, isn't that great, but is okay. So you have to sort of put that in context. Still a very good player with a high ceiling who went through a couple speed bumps. He is leaving Arizona State. Georgia immediately popped as the favorite, but apparently he's taking visits to Auburn and Mississippi State as well. All right. I don't think it's a surprise that Jaden Rashada is transferring, and nothing against Arizona State and that staff. They've got a phenomenal staff. But you're not going to become a superstar at Arizona State. In the Big 12, I just don't think Arizona State can compete right now. It's going to take Coach Dill a little while, right? I think at Georgia, he can start after Carson Beck. I think at Auburn and Mississippi State, he can start today. And that is the interesting part. Like, let's start with what he can be. He is, I think, Jaden Daniels without the rushing ability right now. Great arm, accurate, big frame, can do all the things that you want out of a quarterback. Right now, he's a willing runner, which is kind of like what Jaden Daniels was at Arizona State. Not making the Arizona State connection, but whatever. I think at Georgia, he can be a superstar in that system. I think right now at Mississippi State and at Auburn, he could start right away, and he is in a more quarterback-friendly system to succeed at the quarterback position in college. At Georgia, he will be groomed to be a pro. And ultimately, that's what a quarterback wants. But again, kind of like Arch Manning. If you're Jaden Rashada, you played at Arizona State. If you go to Georgia, you're going to sit behind Carson Beck, and then you're essentially going to have 1 year to prove that you can be a star quarterback, to prove that you can go to the NFL and be a high draft pick, or you stay your senior year. As opposed to going somewhere that, let's just take with Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State. He can make good quarterbacks great, and he can make great quarterbacks elite. He's proven that throughout his career. And so, do you want to start for a couple seasons, become a college superstar, show what you can do on tape, how much you can improve, and then move on to the NFL? That seems pretty attractive, especially at Mississippi State, where they've got a pretty good NIL form structure in place. And Jeff Lebby knows how to do that. So to me, I know Mississippi State sort of jumps off and you're like, okay, Georgia's a favorite and Auburn's Auburn. You know, that's a high profile. Mississippi State, what the hell? I'm fine with it. I think he could do good things at Mississippi State. It's sort of the same thing with Auburn. Hugh Freeze, supposed to be a quarterback whisperer, and I think still can be. He made Bo Wallace a college star. He made Chad Kelly a college star. He made Malik Willis a college star. Now, the professional careers of those guys, not what you would like, but they still were college stars. So if you're Jaden Rashada and you believe you can become an NFL player and make your mark in college, Auburn's a good spot too. I don't know what the love affair with Peyton Thorne is with Hugh Freeze. Dude's either throwing ground balls or throwing strikes. Nothing in between. And I think at Auburn, you could start for 2 years and then go to the pros and at least be highly thought of to get a combine invite and become a draft darling. And then maybe you get your draft money and maybe you become a superstar. That seems like a pretty good path. So to me, if you're looking at Jaden Rashada and you're looking at some of these draft projections, more on the draft in a little bit. If you're looking at these transfer options, I think right now, the two teams he's considering visiting are more attractive than the one that's the front runner, and that is Georgia. Also with this, and this is I don't know how I necessarily feel about this yet, because we have another week of the window being open. You know Jaden Rashada's going to visit Georgia. You know he's considering Mississippi State and Auburn. Blake Shaven played well in Mississippi State spring game. Peyton Thorne started for Auburn. Gunnar Stockton is at Georgia, theoretically in line to take over for Carson Beck. If you're one of these guys at any of those three schools and you think you're supposed to start sometime soon, whether it be this year or down the road, don't you have a long look in the mirror and say, all right, dude in the mirror, maybe I'm not as loved as I thought I was. Maybe I'm being sold a bill of goods that isn't necessarily what it should be. And if that thought process goes through Gunnar Stockton, Peyton Thorne, any of these guys, like Shapen, like if you see that this dude's coming for a visit, you have a conversation with yourself, but don't you have to have a conversation with the staff too? And say, okay, I've got a week to figure this out, to jump in the portal or not. Do you make a snap judgment? I think in certain situations, you kind of have to make a snap judgment. You have to look in the mirror and say, okay, I might not be in a spot where I can start. I know I'm good enough to start somewhere else, even if it's not, an SEC school or wherever. It doesn't matter. I'm using SEC school as an example here because we're talking about Jaden Rashada going to visit and considering 3 SEC schools. But anywhere that's considering one of these guys that are in the portal, you could start a domino effect. And I think that domino effect could cause one of the most chaotic weeks that we've seen in the player movement era. One move, one visit by a player could drastically change multiple teams. Whether it's Arch Manning deciding to transfer, whether it's Jaden Rashada taking visits to Georgia and reportedly Mississippi State and Auburn, all of this is going on within a 1-week bubble in which players might have to take risks that won't pay off. But they might pay off. So it's going to be fascinating. It is going to be fascinating to see what happens over the course of the next 7 days, I should say. All right. NFL draft's coming up. These numbers are from Bet Online. We love Bet Online. BetOnline.ag. Odds for the number 2 overall pick. Obviously, Caleb Williams is number 1, so his odds here are plus 10,000. Don't worry about Caleb Williams. The next 2 highest, Jaden Daniels at minus 150, Drake May at plus 110. Not going to go through the North Carolina quarterback train again. I'm not saying that it's a North Carolina problem. All I'm saying is that Mitch Trubisky, Freudian slip. Mitch Trubisky came from North Carolina, kind of in a similar situation as Drake May. Good, not great, kind of decent, not a great player, but one that's pretty good. And I know folks will say, not a great player. Drake May was awesome. No, he was not. Drake May finished 7th in completion percentage against conference opponents last season. 7th in the ACC in completion percentage in conference games. The ones that matter. I'm going to read you off a list of who he finished behind. Haynes King at Georgia Tech, Jack Plummer at Louisville, Brennan Armstrong at NC State, who was benched in the middle of the season, Tyler Van Dyke, not loved at all at Miami last year, Cade Klubnik, not really loved all that much at Clemson, and then Jordan Travis. You're telling me that that guy who finished behind all 6 of those players in completion percentage in conference play could be the number 2 pick, is second most likely to be the number 2 pick? No way. No way. And this is not a knock against Bet Online. This is a knock against scouts who are stupid sometimes. There is no chance in hell Drake May is a first-round quarterback. There's no chance in hell he is a starting quarterback 3 years from now, 2 years from now. He's fourth in the conference in passer rating against conference foes. Folks, I got to tell you, it's not like the ACC was a juggernaut conference. It wasn't a juggernaut conference. Even before Jordan Travis got hurt, the knock against Florida State is they didn't play nobody, even though they did. But you're telling me that a mediocre to average quarterback in the ACC is going to be drafted second overall or third overall? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And yet, all these mock drafts have him second or third. The second or third quarterback taken in the second or third draft pick ahead of J.J. McCarthy. What the hell kind of planet is it where J.J. McCarthy's worse than Drake May, where Michael Penix is worse than Drake May, where Spencer Rattler is worse than Drake May? It's insanity. It is insanity. And yet these scouts will keep doing it every single year. There's one dude that they just fall in love with for absolutely no reason whatsoever. It happens every year. This year, it's Drake May. Another thing with the NFL draft, we talked about this on College Sports Sunday. Can we stop with the mock trades? I saw one mock draft where there were 5 mock trades in the first round. I don't know the soccer analyst that was on TV going, "What are we doing?" But seriously, what are we doing? None of these people in these mock draft worlds are talking to GMs about potential first-round trades. None of them. You know why? Because if a GM told anybody that GM would be fired. That is the secret that you keep. You don't tell anybody outside the walls of your complex, outside the walls of your office. So enough with the mock trades. I was asked the question by a caller on Sunday on SiriusXM. Over under 4.5 quarterbacks taken in the first round. And I'm like, okay. It would be Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, J.J. McCarthy, Michael Penix. 5. And then somebody might trade up, get somebody else. Unsolicited, not even, you know what? I can't do solicited betting advice. Unsolicited betting advice. So don't do it because I'm not a gambling advisor. If there's an odds out there for over 4.5 quarterbacks, take the over. Take the over. It will pay off. Last thing before we leave here on a beautiful Monday morning. Headsets and tablets were approved. And my answer, my take on this is, what took so damn long? You can have instant replay all the way down to Division III. You can have a few iPads and a receiver, a wireless earpiece in the helmet of a quarterback and a linebacker. It's going to make for the game a lot better. It's going to make for, I think, a much more fluid game. So really like that a lot. That will do it for this edition of College Football Smothered and Covered. Appreciate you guys checking out the show. Reminder, please subscribe, review, share, write a rating. If you like the SEC, if you like the Mountain West, and you like the Big 12, make sure you share the this show, because there will be coaches from all three of those conferences coming up on College Football Smothered and Covered this week. All three. Mountain West, SEC, Big 12. So you're going to have a treat. You are going to have a treat on this show in the coming days. So spread the word. Please spread the word. Until then, have a great day.